Thank you, Carl. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, I'm not used to using this kind of a microphone, so hopefully I won't mess this up too bad. Thank you for coming. I really do appreciate it. It was, Carl and I were talking last night. 7 years ago, I met Carl when I did some work for Remax. They had a program called Momentum, which was a broker training event. And Carl attended those sessions. And then after that, and as Carl likes to say, I never thought I could learn anything from a guy from Springfield, Missouri. But Carl and I started working together about 7 years ago. And I just kudos to you guys for the growth of your companies. But more importantly, the value that you bring to your agents, because it's huge. So I think you got to give these guys a round of applause for all that they do. I want to talk to you today about the market, okay? As Carl said, I work with people all over the country, literally from coast to coast, brokers and teams mostly, a couple of individual agents. And I think we would all acknowledge, or let me just ask it this way, raise your hand right now if you're kind of tired of what you've been going through in this market and all of the reaction that you had to do, all of those things that being at the beck and call of your phone and text messages and operating mostly from fear and reaction, right? All that. The sad part of it is it's always been how our industry's always operated. We've always operated from a reactionary standpoint. And I want to talk to you today about being proactive. And I'm going to lay out some things that I see going on in the market that because we were so busy, you might have missed. Some of it with consumer behavior, some of it just where the marketplace is. We'll go out and talk about some other industries and things that have happened in those industries and why I believe if they haven't already happened in our industry, they're about to. Some things that one of the things I will lay out to you, you will not believe that I think it's very exciting when I tell you what it is, because it's causing a lot of turmoil in the industry. But I've been in the real estate business since 1985, all right? I am older than probably 95% of the people in this room. I'm one of the few people, raise your hand, we'll see how many are in my little club here. How many of you, real estate was your first career? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, right? 6 of us, right? It's all I've ever done. I was actually, my father was a real estate developer, so I was sweeping out warehouses at 5 years old. I'd gone to college on a golf scholarship. We're going to play golf later today. So I'm in heaven. I'm at a golf course, country club. And I was going to be a golf pro. That's really what I was going to set out to do. And not a professional golfer, but a golf professional, somebody that would be working in the pro shop selling you, golf balls and shirts and things like that. And what I realized about being a golf professional is you would work a tremendous amount of hours as an assistant golf professional and make absolutely no money. Like less than no money, until one day perhaps you would get your own club and then you could start making money. And I realized I didn't want to do that, so I thought, I'll get into real estate, right? Where I can work a tremendous number of hours and make absolutely no money at 22 or 3 years old. That really wasn't my game plan. My dad was a developer. I planned on going in business with my father when I graduated from college. I graduated from college, I'm proud to say, because I barely graduated from college. 2.1 grade point average was my stellar college career. It took me 4.5 years to do that, by the way. And I hated college, by the way. I just hated every minute of it. But I was going to go in business with my dad. I graduated from college in December of 1984. My dad sells out, unbeknownst to me, January of 85 and moves to Florida and doesn't offer to take me with him. And I said, well, Dad, what do I do now? You were kind of my plan. He goes, go get your real estate license. You can do that till you figure out what it is you really want to do. So that's what I did. I got my real estate license. March of 1985. And absolutely floundered as a real estate agent. By the time we get to 1989, my son is born, May of 89. My wife looks at me and says, you need to go find a real job. You are never home. You claim you work a tremendous number of hours, but you make no money. This is stressful, and you need to find a real job. And I believe I don't believe in coincidence in life. It's one of my go-to things. I believe in serendipity. I believe that the right people show up at the right time. As long as you know what you really want to do in life, the right people always, every time, show up at the right time. Well, lucky for me, our independent company honestly joined RE/MAX. And 2 people drugged me to a meeting much like this. And I spent 2 days there, and I came home, and my wife said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, just give me 12 months. I think I can figure this out. I've been exposed to things that I didn't really understand. And she said, okay, you got 12 months. Well, 12 months later, my income had gone from $48,000 the year before to just under $200,000 at 27 years old as a real estate agent with an average sales price of $85,000. Okay? And I don't say that like, ooh, look at me, because that was so many years ago. I say that because I'm the kid that barely got out of college, right? And what I know about this industry with all the work that I've done since then, I mean, I was a successful agent. I built a team. I had a team before teams were even a thing. I then took over a real estate office and grew it. I then took over a RE/MAX region and did that. And then about 7 years ago, I started Seed of Field Consulting. I'm a golfer, guys. This is my sweet spot right here. I always tell people everything I learned in life, pretty much everything I learned, I either learned on the golf course or I learned from my dad. My dad was a very successful serial entrepreneur. My dad is the guy that would tell you he never worked a day in his life, although everybody that knew him said he was the hardest working man they ever met because he loved what he did. I am very lucky to have spent my entire life with that mindset. This is not work to me. Selling property was not work. Running a brokerage was not work. Running the region was not work. This is not work. This is fun. I love this. You give me a group of people, a microphone, and a PowerPoint, I'm in heaven. I could talk to you guys for weeks, okay? Because I passionately believe a few things about real estate. One of the main things is, if you do the right things, if you, for lack of a better word, which you'll see, this is kind of the theme for today, if you turn pro, anyone can be successful in real estate. It's not like, only young people can do it, only old people can do it, whether you have a college degree or you barely got out of college like me, or you have a GED from high school. Your body type doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, honestly, whether you're male or female. None of this matters. What matters is, are you doing the right things? Are you doing the right things day in, day out in your business? Are you being proactive in your business? And I will tell you that in 35 years of doing this, we're not as an industry, are we? We are not proactive as an industry. We've always reacted. And the last couple of years, you've had to react more than you've ever had to react, haven't you? And it's exhausting. But what I know is it's always exhausting when you're reacting to the whims of other people. It's not life lived at its highest level. Life lived at its highest level is figuring out what you want to go do and then go do it. And the right people will always show up at the right time, every single solitary time, to help you. This is one of my basic rules of life. That the biggest challenge we really have is we don't know what we want to do. And what I would contend to you is, if you can get crystal clear on what it is you want to do, the right people always show up to help you. I believe the problem we have in life is, because we don't know what we want to do, the right people are there and we miss them. The people that we could align ourselves with to get where we want to go, we miss them because we don't know what we want to do. I firmly believe this. Nobody will ever get me off of this. I've lived it. I've lived it in many ways, and you guys have too if you're weird like me and you go off and think a lot. The parts of your life when you made a big gain, it's because you made a decision to make a big gain. The one thing we know about real estate sales is that time doesn't cure this thing. When I first got in real estate, that's really what I thought was going to happen, right? It's like, okay, so I get in real estate, I do $1 million in sales in my first 6 months. Because my dad had sold out and he had cash and he decided he needed to buy a few things back, so I was my dad's realtor for the first 6 months. The next year I did about twice that. And I thought, oh, here we go. This is going to be simple. That means that first year I do $1 million, second year I do 2, third year I'm going to do 4, fourth year I'm going to do 8. If I hang out long enough, this is going to kick in. The problem was it didn't. Third year I did like $1.5 million. Fourth year I'm back down around $1 million, and I'm like, this sucks. And then I made a decision. I made a decision to get good, to turn pro, if you will. That's what I want to talk to you about today. It's never more important than it is in this market right now, because while you guys have been so busy, while as an industry we have been incredibly busy, there are things happening behind the scenes that I don't know that you noticed. And it's all designed to erode you. That's a pretty strong comment, but I'll show you what I mean in a minute. It is all designed to get between you and your clients. That is the play. That is what is going on. So I want to try to arm you today with some things that I think you can use to stop that by turning pro. So Colin Cowherd, this is my favorite quote. It's become my favorite quote. I don't know if you know who Colin Cowherd is. He's a sports talk guy. But one day I'm listening and he makes this comment. Most people go through their whole life and never get leverage, and that's really sad. But what's worse is when you have leverage and you don't use it. And in the marketplace that we've been in for the last few years, I'm guessing that you felt like you didn't have a lot of leverage. You just kind of had to go where people forced you to go. And I was watching this thing play out, and I'm like, you guys have tremendous leverage. Tremendous leverage. So here's some issues that are currently shaping the market. Number one, we've been on an 8-year market run. Okay? I've been doing this for 30 years, 35 years, I guess. I've seen the ups and downs. It is a cyclical business. It always has been a cyclical business. How many of you have been in the business less than 8 years? Okay. What you're going through, what you've been through is not normal. Okay? Doesn't mean that it's good, doesn't mean that it's bad, it's just not a normal market. All right? We have been on an 8-year run, which is culminating right now in the last 12 months, right? When all of a sudden the floodgates have opened, right? But we have been building up to this for 8 years. So by the show of hands, if you 8 years, if we roll the clock back 8 years, some of you did not participate when we were in the opposite market that we've been in right now. Just as stressful, but a completely different dynamic when we were into the foreclosures and you couldn't give anything, right? Right now it's like, give me listings. 10 years ago it was like, I don't want any more listings. These things don't sell. And yet for the true professional, which I know all of you are, I just want to show you how to enhance a couple of things that you're doing today. You were able to pivot and go where the market was. Number two is consumer behavior. There has been, in my opinion, a huge shift in consumer behavior, and it deals with cell phones. All right? We have become what I will call the scrolling society. We scroll our cell phones constantly, don't we? Whether it is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, we're all staring at our phones and we're scrolling, right? What is the one thing that happens when you scroll a lot? If something doesn't grab your attention immediately, you move on. Now, contrast that with the traditional realtor model that we've always used and that we're still trying to use today in some cases. We want to acquire some contact information from you, say at an open house, please sign in. We're still using sign-in sheets, right? How many people are still using sign-in sheets in an open house? Come on, okay. And the reality is nobody ever likes signing in on our sign-in sheets. So we would trick them. We would write the fake name at the top, right? Try to grease the rails a little bit, get them to sign in. Nobody ever liked signing in. And then after we had acquired the names, some of which were fake, some of which were real, we would then build relationship with people over time. Remember that? Let me put you on a drip campaign. Let me send you some emails. That doesn't work anymore. If you don't knock my socks off the first time I meet you and show massive value, I will move on. I will move on. That's why you see the conversion rates be as low as they actually are in this industry. Consumer behavior has changed. Now, there's a silver lining in all of this, right? I believe that for everything that's bad, there's a great side to it, right? Because the universe works that way. You can't have up without down, left without right, happy without sad, good without bad. So every time you get yourself in a situation, there's something good in there. But sometimes it means we're going to have to change our behavior because of consumer behavior. So this is, you will never meet this guy, but this is one of the most apropos quotes ever. He said it to me in 2005. The public is tired of underwriting the cost of an ineffective and inefficient services delivery model, and he was talking about real estate agents. He said it to me in 2005. He was spot on in 2005. He could have said it in 1995 and it would have been accurate. 85, 75, 2005, 2015, it doesn't matter. The public, honestly, has been unhappy with the service level that our industry has provided, not you guys, but unhappy with what the industry has provided forever. But they had to put up with it. And the big move is they don't have to put up with it anymore. And they're starting to realize they don't have to put up with it. My prediction is technology ultimately will do to this industry what it has always refused to do for itself. And that's raise professionalism. I don't know how many of you are presidents of your board or state directors or big NAR people. If you are, if you're a big NAR person, earmuffs right now for what I'm about to say. NAR talks a great game of professionalism and code of ethics and this, that, and the other. But if we got professional, what would happen to the numbers of realtors? They would drop. They would have to get out, right? How many of you think there's too many realtors? Raise your hand. Right? See, the industry agrees with this. There's too many of us trying to do this. And yet, what funds NAR? Dues. What funds a state association? Dues. What funds a local board? Dues. So while we talk a great game, the reality is, no, we need a lot of people kind of halfway doing this thing. And so as a realtor, you need to understand when I meet you initially as a member of the general public, you are painted with the realtor brush. And it's not a pretty color. And if you don't blow a hole in that the first time I talk to you, in today's environment, I won't give you a second chance. I will click on in the internet world. I will hang up and call someone else. I will get zip code rotated to another agent. The average Zillow consumer, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Zillow. The average Zillow consumer interacts with 26 different realtors on 72 different pieces of property. They keep scrolling. And how many of you know Chopper Russo? Anybody know Chop? So Chop and I are talking about this one day, and Chop goes, Wayne, he's up in Oakland. He goes, Wayne, it just shows you how disloyal people are to realtors. I go, or it shows you I have to go through 25 crappy realtors to get one good one. And that's where I think this is. So I want to see the ranks of realtors fall. I think technology is the pathway that's going to do it. Technology and a couple of other things. So here's a number of leads, and you may have seen these stats before, but these are pretty amazing to me. So online leads, right? I mean, everybody will tell you that's where the business is now. It's online leads. So in 2011, we had 4.6 million closed transactions in the United States. We had 4.5 million online leads. 3 years ago, we had 5.5 million closed transactions, and we had 89 million leads. This year, we're on pace for 5.9 million closed transactions, but 100 million leads. So what does that tell you? A lot of these leads really aren't leads. They're just humans, right? We're too quick to call everything a lead. We should start with it's a human, right? So every person that contacts you is like a human. You have to determine whether it's a lead. And if you're a professional, you can do that. And you can do it quickly, and you can do it succinctly. But if you're an amateur, which is what most realtors are, you end up working with people forever, right? And then you find out they're not really going to do anything. So here's my overarching quest for the 30 plus years I've been in this business. I want to try to prove it to realtors once and for all that you do not have to lose your life in order to be a successful real estate agent. You don't. There's no correlation between the amount of money someone makes and the number of hours they work. It's like the big realtor lie. I hear it all the time from people, right? Well, I'd love to make more money, but I'm out of time. No, there's no correlation. Because I know people that are working 80 hours a week making 40 grand doing this. And I know people working less than 40 hours a week making 800,000, a million. So there can't be this hardwired connection, right? That's why we got into this. We're entrepreneurs. I have a passion for real estate agents and for trying to help people understand that you should be able to spend time with your kids. You should be able to not miss dinners and all of those things, right? Because that's why we do this. And the only reason, honestly, that we work so many hours is we work with a bunch of people that aren't going to do anything. That's how you lose your life as a realtor. You show property endlessly to somebody. And then the mantra becomes, well, I've worked with them so long now, Wayne, I got to keep going. I got to get paid, right? Stop. Just stop it. You don't have to do that. This was a lesson I learned at 27 years old. I learned how this game worked. Because it's a game, and it has rules. And once you understand the rules, then you start laying some strategies in. And it's never more important than in the marketplace that we are somewhat coming out of and heading into. Amazon has killed shopping malls, hasn't it? They're dead. And the online world has got its target on you. Because the online world is trying to do to you what Amazon did to shopping malls. Now here's the correlations that I draw from this. Nobody ever really liked going to the mall. After you were like 13 or 14 years old and you couldn't drive yet, and it's where you could go hang out on a Saturday. But other than that, as adults, we never liked going to the mall, did we? I mean, you had to park like away. And then, like, if you wanted to go to a store, there wasn't a door right by that store. You had to go in like a door, and then you had to go find your store and walk by all the stuff you didn't really want to get to the store. And then if it was raining, it was all of those things. Well, the bottom line is, for our industry, the public never liked dealing with us either. And so if you don't think for 1 minute that Zillow is trying to turn you into a shopping mall, you're crazy. And if you don't think Truly is trying to do, you don't think all these plays are trying to do this, you're crazy. Now here's the interesting part. Have you noticed what there's a huge resurgence in now? In the retail sector. Anyone? How many of you are Amazon Prime? Come on, get them up, let's go. I am too, I do it, right? There has been a huge resurgence in boutique stores. In fact, where I live, there is a mall, a huge mall, that right across the street, about 4 or 5 years ago, they took a shopping center, a normal old 1950s shopping center. They redid it, and it is full of boutique stores, like really cool boutique stores. You can't find a parking place in this shopping center with the boutique stores. You can shoot a cannon across the street at the mall. There's nobody there. And this is, to me, kind of the line in the sand for you guys. Okay, for us. You have to bring the boutique level experience to the real estate transaction. Let me say that again. You have to bring the boutique level experience when I deal with you to the real estate transaction. I was in Oklahoma not too long ago and I was talking to people about this, and one of the ladies raised her hand and she goes, I get it. And I go, okay, talk to me. Why do you get it? She goes, well, the other day, she said, it was my son-in-law's birthday was coming up, and I called Mr. So-and-so at whatever clothing store and said, it's Barry's birthday, and next week I'm going to need something. And he said, how much do you want to spend? And she said, well, you know, a couple of $100. He said, one item or multiples? And she said, well, either way, okay, come by at 4 o'clock, I'll have it all wrapped up for you. Because he knows Barry, right? He knows that customer. He's in deep relationship with that customer. Oh, really? Can you hear me now? Oh, there we go, sorry. That's the point where we have to get to. I'll be honest with you guys, I've been talking about this for a long time. It is the line in the sand for you. It's your past clients. You've got to bring a boutique level experience to these people. And the third parties are trying to get between you and your people. And I'll prove it to you here in a little bit. And this is the thing I'm so excited about. Believe it or not, I'm a weird guy. How many of you know about the DOJ NAR lawsuit? Raise your hands. Okay, see, as an industry, y'all should know about this, all right? It started with a class action lawsuit against NAR. Interestingly, in the state of Missouri, I discovered we are a very great place to file a class action lawsuit. Apparently, we're very class action friendly, because I actually got served on this lawsuit. I actually got served, so I've read the lawsuit, right? Dealt with buyer agent commissions. The whole crux of the lawsuit, if you boil the lawsuit down, here's what it boils down to for those of you who don't know about it. The claim is that sellers are being coerced into paying fees to an agent who's not representing them. All right? That's the claim. So this came out about 3 years ago, and the first market to react to it was Seattle, Washington, where I have a client. They called an emergency session in Seattle of their board, and they changed the rules. And the rule change was this. Absent a buyer agency agreement prior to showing the property, you had to accept whatever the listing agent was offering. And immediately, all the listing agents started offering $500. Okay? Because here's the elephant in the room, right? How many of you use buyer agency agreements? Raise your hands. It's available in Jersey, right? Wait, raise your hands again. You use buyer agency agreements. Okay? Raise your hand one more time. You use buyer agency agreements, and you get them signed before you ever show property to anybody. And one person's hand remains up. You see the problem? So here's where this thing is. And this is not by happenstance, right? There are moves that have been made over the last few years while you guys were so busy selling houses. And there's people behind the scenes going, and I used to have a quote, I've got it in another presentation. Venture capitalists, multiple venture capitalists about 5 years ago said that we feel that real estate is ripe for disruption because they're really disconnected people, and we think there's a lot of money to be made in there. Well, venture capitalists are not stupid people, right? So out comes this DOJ lawsuit. And basically what they did in Seattle was they said, you've got to have a buyer agency agreement signed before you show the property, or we're not going to pay you. And then that rolls into, well, what's my value to a buyer? Because this is when my client called me. He started doing classes on the legal part of it. And then he called me and he's like, okay, we got another issue. I go, let me guess. Agents can't figure out what value they bring to the table. Therefore, they don't know how to get a buyer agency agreement signed. And he goes, you're exactly right. Now, here's why NAR's fighting this so hard. I hope nobody's recording this and sending it to Washington, D.C. Here's why they're fighting it so stinking hard. If you look at the numbers for any board of realtors, the top people will be more heavily skewed to the listing side of the equation than the buyer side. And when you go to the bottom 2/3 of realtors, what will you find? Very few listings and tons of buyer sides. That's why NAR's fighting it so hard. It's like, oh my gosh, this could raise professionalism in the entire industry. I think it's freaking awesome, right? Because it'll finally get rid of the people selling 2 or 3 houses a year because they can't up their games. I'm going to predict to you that in the next 5 years, your buyer presentation skills will be just as, if not more important than your listing presentation skills. See, we've always had, it's really funny to me. There's a state law in every state that says you can't list a house without an agreement. There's no law in any state that says you can't work with a buyer without an agreement. Now I'm weird. I think a lot. I'm like, and why would that be? It'd be better for the consumer if you had an agreement. Why is it that we haven't pushed this? Because it would get rid of a bunch of real estate agents. Now, everybody, raise your hand. Would you like to get rid of a bunch of real estate agents? Half-baked, don't have a clue, don't know what they're doing. Okay. All right. So there you go. So once again, right, the powers that be are in a little bit of a conundrum with the members, shall we say. Okay. Oh, wow, that's hard to see. Okay, I just want to give you some overall market stats. Average market time in the U.S. right now is about 17 days. Okay. That further shreds your value proposition to a seller, by the way. Let me tell you one of the things y'all ought to stop doing. Okay? Stop going on Facebook and saying, I just sold this house in 4 hours with 17 offers. Stop it. Because what you're saying to the public is, oh man, this is simple. Look at all this money I'm making for no effort, right? And it's just going to, it's forcing, and we just don't see what we're doing, right? Is Rocco here? No, seriously, is Rocco here? Rocco's not here this morning, is he? Copy Rocco's posts on Facebook regarding working with his clients if you haven't seen them. They're awesome. I've showed people all over the country about them. Because he doesn't talk about how quickly he did something. He talks about that relationship with the consumer. All right? So we got to kind of just tweak what we're doing a little bit, change the game. Average market time, 17 days. Housing supply, last 12 months. I don't mean to bore you with stats, but I do think it's quasi-important. We're still underwater on housing supply. We're not as underwater as we were. You guys are probably starting to feel this now, right? We're starting to see a little bit more inventory in the average price ranges. Marketplace still has a tremendous amount of steam, but we're not getting 15 offers in 3 hours. We're getting maybe a couple of 3 offers in a day, something like that. Public perception is what? Oh, it's really slow now. I hear real estate's really slow. What do you mean we didn't get 15 offers, right? And we went through this summer, didn't you? When you got a listing and you didn't get 15 offers in 4 hours, like, oh my God, what have I done wrong? Right? Okay. Buyer traffic. I'm sorry that the lighting's not awesome. Let's just say that there's a color on here for very weak buyer traffic. I mean, there's a dot for it. It's nowhere in the U.S. The buyer traffic is still very, very strong. Okay? It's not as strong as it was. There's no doubt about that. The marketplace is still very, very strong. And here's why. So on the left, you have the 25-year running average of payment to income. Okay? So for the last 25 years, the average American spent 23.6% of their monthly income on housing. Okay? For the last 5 years, it's been 20.1%. All right? And today, because of the escalation in prices, right, but still incredibly low rates, we're at 20.5%. Okay? So you're probably hearing people say this. We saw a lot of buyers pull out of the market in the last few months, didn't we? They're like, you know what, I'm tired of playing this game. I'm going to wait for it to cool off. Right? Well, it's not going to cool off. Okay? It's not going to cool off because rates are still incredibly low. All right? So here's what I think is going to happen. Again, I'm a golfer, so a lot of what I learned on the golf course. You may not have ever realized this, but when you have rain, when it's raining, on the back end of a rainstorm, it'll rain really, really hard and then it'll stop. Has anybody ever realized that? Maybe not. But when you're a golfer and you're in a rain delay, you start to notice these things. And I would look at people and go, oh, it's raining really hard now. We're about ready to go out and play again. That's about to happen in real estate. You're about to get a flood, I think. Because statistically, over 70% of homeowners in the United States in the last 6 months have contemplated selling their property. But they didn't put it on the market. Why? They're trying to time the market, right? Biggest investment most Americans ever have is their personal home, isn't it? It is their biggest asset. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to maximize the earning power of your largest asset. But every month it kept going up. So people have been sitting around the kitchen table for 6 months going, you know, we really probably ought to sell this and do something else. And then, of course, from the other side of the table, what does the other person say? But where would we go? I would love to sell my house if I knew where I could go. I'm going to show you a strategy that is literally working for people all over the country that we devised. So you can stop that conversation, or at least have a different narrative with these people, okay? So here's something for Black Knight. Should home price appreciation continue at its current rate, and the 30-year rates go to 3.5 by the end of next year, the national payment to income ratio would hit 21.6 by the end of this year, right? So currently rates are what, 3.1, 3.2-ish, right? So if we go to 3.5 with the current appreciation, we'll be at 21.6 by the end of the year, still a full 2 percentage points under the 25-year running average, okay? Here's the projections on interest rates from various sources. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, MBA, and NAR. Here's where they think it's going to go. So you'd see in the second quarter of 2022, we'd be at 3.45. This is what they're projecting. By the way, I'm going to get, so you don't have to take pictures. I'm going to get these to Carl, and you can get copies of the slides, okay? And then I'll tell you where I get this stuff, and then I'm also going to tell you should subscribe to what I subscribe to here in a minute. And then we could go to 3.6. But the bottom line is housing is not as affordable as it was a few months ago. But housing is still incredibly affordable. That's a message that you need to be delivering to your clients. Do not let third parties deliver that information to the clients. You've got to push that information to them, okay? And then here's historical rates by decade. For those of you that haven't been in this business for a while, or if you're really young, you don't remember the old interest rates that some of us remember in the room. When I got in the real estate business, and I sound like such an old fuddy-duddy now, but when I got in the real estate business in 1985, there was no fixed rate money. It was all adjustables. How many of you sold property in the days of the adjustable rate mortgage? Not very many of us anymore, right? And some of you have a look on your face like, what? How about points? You ever been in a market where people had to pay points? Anybody know what a point is? A point was cash up front, 1% of the loan amount. You had to pay 2 points to even get a loan. And then when you got a loan, it was on a 3-1 arm or a 5-2 arm, adjustable rate mortgage, and the rates started at about 8.5%, 9%. And yet people still bought homes, right? People still bought houses, okay? So don't get totally caught up in it, but you have to do a couple of things with your people. The marketplace I believe you have today is a marketplace you're going to have for the next 18 to 24 months. It's going to be incredibly competitive, right? And if you up your game, you won't have to be as reactionary, perhaps, as you've been over the last few months. Overall, the marketplace is moving faster than the industry is. The industry's kind of gotten exposed in the last few months, the last year or so, that we aren't providing the level of service that the consumer wanted. And y'all need to fix it. And because the industry's not going to, but as individuals in this room, you can do it. I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about what I believe. Third parties have seen the amount of money being generated, like I said earlier, the venture capitalist guys, and they've decided they want to get in there and get a little bit of it. This was the Zillow play. You realize Zillow's trying to get between you and your customers, right? Do you also realize that we created a perfect vehicle for them to do this? Because we don't stay in contact with our past clients. I'll dig into that here in a little bit. It's a small business issue. It's not just real estate. Agents with marginal past client systems are losing their clients to active prospectors and discount models. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I will tell you what I know. There are a lot of people in the real estate industry who have been very successful realtors. And in the last couple of years, they're like, what in the heck is going on? This is the hottest real estate market in 35 years, and I don't have a ticket to the dance. And I don't know why. And it's because of past client systems. It's because of a lack of past client systems. Because now we have teams, we have lead aggregators, we have all of these things, and they're actively prospecting. So one of the things that I want to lay out for you today is you want to capitalize on the average agent's inability to be really great at this and stay in flow with their people. And you don't ever want one of your people to go back out to one of the portals again. Ever. It should never leave your circle. But that takes some work on your part. On the listing side, you guys feeling this? The pressure is at an all-time high on commissions. Anybody feeling that? One of the things we've seen nationally is when someone calls you about listing their property, right? And that part of the model hasn't really changed. The way the consumer works their way through the listing side hasn't changed. The way the buyer works has changed massively because of the internet, okay? One of the things we've learned, though, is in that initial phone call that you get from a seller, earlier and earlier in the phone call now, the question is, what's your commission, right? And I will tell you there's only one answer to that question on the initial phone call. My commissions are completely negotiable. When can I come out and talk to you? Okay? Change your dialogue. My commissions are completely negotiable. When can I come out and talk to you? Because I can't tell you the number of people that have said, I charge 6%, I charge 7%. Okay, thanks, bye. Moving on, scrolling, right? And your ability to protect your fees in today's world is driven by your ability to make a great presentation, right? Y'all get that? That's how you protect your fees, right? How you show me how you're better than the other people that you might have talked to. So just change your dialogue, because that question's coming up earlier and earlier in the conversation. Interestingly, if you get into the mind of the consumer, okay, how do consumers find the agent they list their house with? Have you ever sat around and thought about that? Right? Do they find listing agents online? As a general rule, not yet. Now, I've talked to some people that used to be with Zillow, that were really high with Zillow, and I said, it looks to me like the ultimate play for all the online guys is to get to the listing side. The buyers are just a way to get eyeballs. And he goes, oh no, we've talked about that a lot. Ultimately, we want to get to the listing side. We want those listing leads. That's, to me, the back end of the iBuyer programs that everybody's running now. It creates a listing lead, right? They're going to come in, and everybody talk, you know iBuyers, right? Everybody's familiar with the iBuyer program. They're going to come in and they'll buy your house, but it's at a steep discount. And most people, other than unless they want the convenience of it, they don't want it. But what have they just generated? They've generated a listing lead. And what are they going to do with that listing lead? They're going to sell it back to you, even if it's one of your people, right? I watched this happen years ago with the reload business. Used to, and reload was a thing. It's not really much of a thing anymore. But when someone was getting transferred, they would, you'd get a call from somebody, hey, I'm getting transferred. And you go out and make the presentation, and then you'd get a call from the reload company, and they'd go, by the way, you owe us 30%, 25% back then. And it's like, no, I've already talked to them. They're my guys. Sorry, I'm not going to pay you. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks. And so then they figured out how to tie the transferee's benefit package to whether they got their 25%. And then all of a sudden you went into closings, and you're like, I'm not paying them. And the transferee would get on the phone and go, look, I already knew Wayne. He shouldn't have to. Oh, really? Okay. Click. Hey, dude, here's the deal. If they don't get their 25%, I don't get my relocation package. Sorry. And as soon as that was in play, then what happened? 30%, 32%, 35%, 40%, 42% fees. That game was played 20 odd years ago, right? Those of us that are around remember this. What you're seeing happen today, I feel like such a downer guy today. I'm going to show you some strategies in a second. All I'm saying is that what's happening today has always happened to this business. But with the aid of technology and Wall Street, now they got the money to fade this thing for a while till it works. That's why Zillow continues to run at a loss. They're playing the long game, right? They're getting more and more eyeballs, more and more traffic. 98% of consumers start their search online. And how many people read the NAR profile of buyers and sellers? Raise your hands. Okay. 2 of you, 3 of us in the room, okay? So NAR publishes a deal every year, and it's their profile of buyers and sellers. It's free. If you go to realtor.org, which is the NAR website, in case you didn't know, okay? Go to realtor.org, click on the downloads, and you can download every year the NAR profile of buyers and sellers. It is the best work NAR does all year, in my opinion. It's free for you to download. It is a wealth of information. Buying patterns, patterns of sellers, why they hire the agent that they hire. 40% of all buyers are referred to their real estate agent. 76% of buyers after the transaction say they would refer their agent to someone else. Only 13% actually do. Sellers only interview one person to sell their house 77% of the time. There's a lot of great information in there, right? But as an industry, we're not students of the game. And I'm telling you, I'm begging you, become a student of the game. Start trying to figure out where this thing is headed and go get in front of it. Okay? It's huge. Don't react. It's going to sneak up on you like a thief in the night. Don't let it do that. It requires you to do a little study every day. Start reading a few different things about your industry. On the buyer side, how many of you got blamed in the last few months for not getting a house purchased for your buyer? Not that many people, a few people. That was a whole new dynamic, right? So if you're a listing agent, I became a really strong listing agent. If you're a listing agent, you know the rules of the game going in. If this thing doesn't sell, it's going to be your fault, right? You didn't do enough marketing, you didn't hold it open enough, you didn't this, that, or the other. But buyers, oh, that was always a happy phone call. There's another house today. Let's go look. And in the old model, right, it was always, hey, there's a house today. Okay, well, kids have got ball games. Give me the address. Let me drive by. If we like it, we'll call you. Maybe, I don't know, Sunday, Monday? Could look at it Sunday, Monday? Oh, yeah, that'd be good. You guys drive by. Let me know. Marketplace we've been in, what's it been? Hey, there's a new house on the market. Oh, never mind. It's gone. Right? Totally different dynamic, right? So if you're a strong listing agent, here's the rule of the game. Always has been. You have to master the skill set of delivering distasteful information to people on a regular basis without them blaming you. That's the rule of being a great listing agent. That's what you must do, right? Now you're having to do that with buyers, right? And yet, for all the junk I just threw on the table, opportunity abounds. There's more opportunity right now in real estate than there's ever been, in my opinion, right? That's what I want to try to show you. What are those places where you can get in and you can leverage this thing? Because as Colin Cowherd said, most people go through their life and never get leverage, and that's sad. What's even worse is when you have it, you don't use it. And you all have leverage. You have big leverage, and the reason you have leverage is you're really good. You're really good at what you do. Please understand one concept about the listing side of the equation, because this market is getting ready to turn more toward listings again. Maybe not massively, but there's going to be more listings. Here's what I want you to understand about how a consumer works their way through the listing. Number one, a lot of people try to do this themselves, right? That's the FSBO people. Number two, if they're not going to try to do it themselves, but they have an agent that they've used before, that they really enjoyed the process, they'll call that agent, won't they? Now, if they don't have that, what's their next step? They ask their friend, do you know of an agent? And if they don't have that, what's the last step? Sellers don't go online. They call a name. They call a name realtor. Buyers go online. Buyers go online first. Sellers don't. Sellers call a name realtor, right? This is still a benefactor of the old model. The name realtors had the advertising dollar, the positioning, the geographic farms, of this, that, and the other. That's how the public does this on the listing side. On the buyer side, 98% of the time they go to the internet first. Interestingly, in the NAR profile of buyers and sellers up until this year, it not only laid out that 98% of the people went to the internet, it showed you which portals they went to. Oh, guess what happened this year in the report, last year in the report? Oh, because I looked for them. All those slides were stripped out. Because NAR doesn't want you to know where everybody's going. Because they're going to Zillow. I hate to tell you, I hate to break it to you, they're going to Zillow first. Zillow's positioned themselves. Now, does that mean that we're out of business? No, not at all. Not at all. But it does mean you got to do what they can't do. You got to do what they can't do. You got to provide boutique level service. So there is a great book. I don't expect you to read it, but it's a great book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. How many of you have ever read, it's a test, Carl. How many of you have ever read The Blue Ocean Strategy? Okay, perfect, just like Carl said it would be. He's like, Wayne, what's this blue water thing you talk about, right? So there's a great book called The Blue Ocean Strategy, all right? And it's a business book. I read a lot of business books. And what it lays out is that every marketplace is made up of two oceans. For everything, every market is made up of two oceans, a red ocean and a blue ocean, okay? The red ocean is the known market space. The blue ocean is the market space that nobody sees. And the reason the red ocean is red is because it's bloody, because everybody's fighting for the same pieces of business. So the premise of the book is, rather than getting in there and battling it out with everybody else in your market, just stop and look over here, and there's a blue ocean where nobody is, okay? This thing is very apropos, although they never mention real estate in it, it's very apropos for where our industry is today. Red ocean is the MLS. It got bloody over the last few months, didn't it, in the MLS? Bidding wars, snarky agents, snarky clients, it was bloody. The blue ocean is the unknown and untapped market space that nobody's paying any attention to. Right? Remember, over 70% of homeowners in the last 6 months have said, you know what? We really ought to do this. And I started thinking about this a few months ago as I was in a couple of realtor Facebook groups. And I'm sure you guys have them here too, and people were like, hey, I've got a buyer for XYZ. Do you have anything coming up? Please call me, right? In the spirit of cooperation. And then I started realizing that some of these people were writing out really specific things their buyers needed. I need 5 bedrooms, 3 baths in this subdivision between this price range and this price range. Does anybody have anything coming up? And I keep reading these and I'm like, why don't you just go find it for them? You know what your people are looking for. Why don't you take an action step and figure out how to do what they really want you to do anyway? And yet here came all the, oh, I might have something coming up. I don't know, let me call my people, right? Our industry reliance on multi-list as a go-to place has lessened your value proposition as a realtor. So what I would challenge you with today is, how many of you sell commercial property? It's a different world, isn't it? Yeah. You got to find deals if you're a commercial realtor because there's no MLS, right? I mean, there's LoopNet, there's CoStar, but that ain't MLS. So when you have a buyer for a commercial piece of property, what do? You have to ask them a tremendous number of questions on the front end. What are you looking for? What rate of return you want? What cap rate do you want? Where do you want it to be? This, that, and the other. Let me see what I can go find. And what must you do? You go start calling people that have those properties. You go, I got a buyer, right? I got a buyer. And then you're waiting for the person that says, you know what, I'd sell it, but I don't want the cash. This would have to be a 1031 exchange. So now you got to go find me one. All right, what do you want? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Here we go again, right? And then that guy goes, well, I don't want the cash either. Got to find me one. And before you know it, you set up all these dominoes. And that's where the residential market is. Okay? You can do the same thing in residential. And it creates this really cool scenario. 10 strategies for today's market. Actually, just 10 strategies for any market. Okay? Number one, embrace what your role is in this deal. Once and for all, let's embrace what the role is. Real estate agent, is that what you are? You an agent? Nah, you're not an agent. And people started realizing about 15 years, do you need to say something to me? Oh, no, you were standing there with your hands on your hip like, Wayne, you need to stop. Okay. I thought maybe they sent you up here to say Wayne needs to take a break. Okay. About 15 years ago, people were like, oh, I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a consultant. Real estate consultant starts showing up on all these business cards, right? Oh, I'm not just an agent, I'm a consultant. And my attitude was always, if you're a consultant, I'll know by talking to you. You don't need to put it on your business card. By the way, that doesn't get it anymore. What do you need to become? You got to be my strategist and my trusted advisor. You got to position yourself with your people to where they wouldn't think of doing a real estate transaction without you because you bring so much to the table. You're loyal. They're loyal to you. And it allows you to just kind of thumb your nose at everything else. And I'll give you the classic analogy that actually came up yesterday in a meeting, and it was so apropos, because I think everything happens the way it's supposed to. So I was supposed to tell you this today, and Ruchi, you know what I'm about to say because you were there. So IBM used to be the big thing, right? And then Microsoft like swallowed them up. And now IBM doesn't exist anymore. So think of Microsoft, or think of Zillow as being Microsoft, all right? Now here's a little test for you. Raise your hand if you have an iPhone by brand. Most of the room. Because what you have to become is Apple. No, I'm serious. What you have to become is Apple, right? Zillow is Microsoft. Zillow is Bill Gates. You need to be Steve Jobs. Because Bill Gates said, we're going to just do a whole lot of stuff for a whole lot of people, right? And Steve Jobs, if you've never read, and I don't know how much you all read, I will tell you probably not as much as you used to, and you need to read more. But have you ever read the book Jobs by Walter Isaacson? Raise your hand. Go buy the book Jobs. It's about Steve Jobs. And one of the key points, he's building Apple, then they kick him out. Then Apple tanks. Then they go ask him to please come back. And in that moment when he comes back, he sits down with all of their top level people. And he's like, what are you guys thinking about? What's the plan for the growth of the company? They said, we've come up with 100 products that we can build. And Steve Jobs goes, no, we're not doing that. And he takes a whiteboard and he makes a big plus mark in the whiteboard. He goes, we can't crush more than 4 things. So I don't want 100 things that we're kind of good at. I want 4 things that we really know all about. That's where the iPad came from. That's where the iPod came from, was out of that meeting, and 2 other things that I don't really remember exactly what they are. But people that are Apple people are like Apple people, right? It's like, I'm an Apple person. Do you have that level of confidence from your clients? Do you have clients who say, I would never do a real estate transaction without you? Do you have clients that when one of their friends gets in real estate, they look at that friend and they go, good luck to you. I hope you do well, right? Wayne's my guy. Wouldn't think of doing a real estate transaction without Wayne. Been my guy for a long time. Do you have that level with your people? You need it. You need it more now than you ever have. By the way, it's what the consumer always wanted anyway. It's what they really wanted. They really wanted us to go find the house that they really wanted, rather than us trying to pitch them on what was available in the market right now. Right? Is it possible for you to find the house that I really want? Is it possible for you to find my perfect house? Well, yeah, it actually is. So just create your own blue ocean. Let everybody else go battle all this crap, right? We haven't mastered the basic skill set or gone back and sharpened up the basic skill set of sales, which is scripts and dialogues. We're not good at it. And we need to get good at it. If you want to go work that book of business, you better get really good at it. I've got a team in Oklahoma, and And if you look statistically at this thing, you got 100 million leads, you got 6 million transactions, so 94% of the people aren't any good in an online lead. So if you're getting 6% of the people to do something, you're killing it, because statistically it tells you there's no more business to be done. And these guys are at 7.9% as of right now. 7.9% of Zillow leads. It is a very profitable machine for this team. He pays through the nose for the leads. He gets it. But because of the way his model is set up, he's okay with it, because they've done 300 closed transactions so far this year, and 180 of them have been repeat and referral, because that's really where their focus is, okay? These are the things that are playing out in the industry that I want you to understand. Create your own blue ocean. Your blue ocean is the people you already have. Here's a letter. As a result of me being in these Facebook groups, I'm like, why don't you just go find these houses? So I wrote a letter. I crafted a letter. And I'll send you a copy of the letter if you want it, if you'll use it. It works. And I won't tell you it works every single solitary time, but it's crazy how often it works. I was just talking to a client yesterday. He said, I sent out 80 letters, 80 of the letters. I go, how'd it go? He goes, I got 8 inquiries. I had a guy in New Hampshire. He sent the letter out. He needed waterfront property, 850 to 2 million. He sent the letter out. He got 6 inquiries from people. So here's what we've learned from this, okay? And one of the $2 million sellers of waterfront property in New Hampshire replied to a letter written by a guy in, Hooterville, Missouri, right? Because of, and he made the comment to Andrew, he said, I get letters from people all the time. Yours was different. And the only thing we can figure out that's different is it says, please understand this is not a fishing expedition trying to secure listings. I really have a buyer who loves your neighborhood or your street or your house, and I'm working hard to help them find their dream home and location. Include with the letter, if your buyer will let you, a copy of their pre-approval letter, if they're getting a loan. Or perhaps their cash position, if you, and obviously black their name out, right? When you get a response, be prepared for this, because this is what people say statistically. Do you really have a buyer? You're just out trying to get listings. No, I really have a buyer. Sent you their letter, right? Do not, and what these people will say is, well, here's my address, have your buyer drive by and then let me know. No, when can I come out? This is a buyer I have an agreement with. I know exactly what they're looking for. I'll be able to tell you whether your house is a fit for theirs or not. So what you've done is exactly what Zillow is doing with an iBuyer program. You've created a listing lead for yourself. You've operated in the blue ocean. Okay? This is what a commercial realtor would have to do. And it's what we must do today in this industry. Okay? There's a lot of money out there. Here's what we found. One time, out of all of the people that I've had send out this letter, one time have they gotten a call from another real estate agent who said, my client got your letter and wanted me to call you and find out about the situation with your buyer. It's happened one time. And guess who the seller was? Swear to God, true story. It was the agent's mom. Other than that, what we're seeing happen is these people do not feel the need to pull their previous agent into the transaction. They're going straight to the person that actually had the buyer. Okay? So I want you to implement this strategy every time you have a buyer. This is the blue ocean strategy for buyers. This means you're going to have to spend your money working with a buyer, and that's how it helps you get the buyer agency signed. Is like, look, if you'll hire me to represent you, here's what we'll do. I've got this letter. I want to sit down with you. I want to talk exactly about what you're looking for. I'm going to send this letter out. By the way, we might also go drive the neighborhoods you really want, and you point to houses. I'll go see if I can get them to sell them. I got a buddy that has done this. He's done this for as long as he's been in the business. He would just take his buyers, like, okay, you want this subdivision? Yeah. Point to the houses. Which ones you want me to find out about? He did it last year. And in our market, average sales price is about $210,000, right? I know, it wouldn't be worth your guys' time here, but $210,000, that's what we do in Missouri. And he was laughing, and he goes, I took my buyer out to Ravenwood South. There weren't any houses on the market. And I said, all right, start pointing like I always do. And they pointed at a house, and I went up and knocked on the lady's door the next day, said I had a buyer. They're looking for the neighborhood. It's the only place they want to be. They specifically pointed to your house. She goes, wow, this is so crazy. I was thinking about putting my house on the market in the next couple of months. He said, well, would you? She goes, oh, absolutely. $600,000 sale, both sides. He goes, yeah, old school stuff doesn't work, Wayne. Right? He's a very proactive person. Have you ever done that for a buyer? Have you ever thought about doing that for a buyer? Yes. Did you think about doing it and it smelled too much like work? Did you think about doing it, and Olivia and I were talking about this last night. Did you think about doing it and thought, oh, I don't really want to spend like a couple $100 on postage? Okay, I'm going to say something that's probably going to offend tons of you. I'm going to say it anyway. Y'all make tens of thousands of dollars for very little effort. Let's be honest. When we actually get paid, it's for very little effort. Right? I mean, the hourly wage that we get when we actually get a check is astronomical. And we shroud it in, but Wayne, you don't understand how many people I work with that I don't get paid on. That ain't my fault. That is not my fault as a consumer, that you choose to work with a bunch of people who don't pay you. And so therefore you have to charge me more. Why don't you go get better at what you do, and then maybe you could charge me less? And that's where the consumer mindset is today, right? So if you're willing to go the extra yard for people, now you're my trusted advisor. Now you actually have a strategy for me. Now I want to work with you. Now I'm going to tell my friends, you need to call this person because they're completely different. And you have your own blue ocean. This can also be used with potential sellers. How many of you right now have somebody that said, hey, I'd sell my house, I just don't know where I would go? Raise your hands. Okay, call them. You got a strategy now, right? I want to sit down. I want you to describe your perfect house for me. I want you to tell me exactly where it would be, and I'm going to see if I can find it for you. This thing's getting results. Not every time, but it's getting results a lot of the time, okay? This is how you protect yourself in this marketplace right now. It's a little bit different. I understand. It sounds kind of old school. I understand. It's not like some sexy Facebook addy kind of thing. It's like doing the work, right? Understand your value. It's interpretation of information, guys. It's not information anymore. That ship sailed a long time ago. The value of a real estate agent used to be information. In fact, you couldn't get information without us. Now, there's going to be like no hands go up when I say this. How many of you remember Multilis books? Oh, a few of us, okay. So for those of you in the room who are like, what? Okay, so there used to be, in our market, there was a book that was published every 2 weeks. It was like your realtor Bible. It was where all the houses were, right? There were 9 houses, 9 properties to a page, one crappy black and white picture taken by the Board of Realtors photographer who didn't care if he got it right, a bunch of cryptic information underneath. There was a bunch of codes, that's where HVAC came from, and we thought, oh, nobody's going to understand this. Let me explain to you what HVAC means, right? And that was our Bible. And the book came out every 2 weeks, right? So the dialogue back then was, hey, the deadline for the book is tomorrow. If you want to get in the book, which is a big deal, we need to go ahead and list tonight, because if you miss the book deadline, it's going to be a month. You ever wonder why realtors toured? I don't think y'all tour anymore, do you? Tour new listings? Although some companies still do it. That's a holdover from Multilis book days. You had to go on tour every week because the damn thing wasn't going to hit the book for 2 more weeks or a month. It was the only way you could find out about property, which was the only reason we had sales meetings. And yet some of this stuff is still going on. Okay, sorry. So your value today is not info. It's interpretation of the info people already have. Used to, people would call and say, Wayne, I think I want to buy a house. Well, come on in. Let's talk about what you need. Let me see what I can find you. Now what do? I want to see this one, and this one. And I've already got the taxes, and I've looked at all this stuff online. Whoa, now's what's my value to you? Got to have negotiation strategies for these people. Got to take them outside of the MLS, right? Now, you guys are lucky that I'm talking to you about this, because not a lot of people in your markets are thinking this way. They're riding the wave, right? It's like, oh, I'm making so much money. I've seen so many new realtors get in and go, oh, I'm so cool. I'm like, you don't have a clue yet. Wait till this thing crashes into the shore, right? Sorry, I'm a realist. Clients aren't coming to you for information. They're coming to you for strategy and communication, nothing more, nothing less. What's your strategy for me? How can you make my transaction easier? What's your communication protocol? How are you going to communicate with me? Not only today, but on throughout the process. What guarantees are you going to make me? Can I fire you anytime I want to? Cancellation guarantee is a huge value proposition, folks. 3 Ds of success. Number 1, you've got to differentiate yourself from the other realtors because they don't like us. And I am still a realtor. I still have my license in Missouri. I still have my broker's license. I am still a realtor. I'm a dues-paying NAR member. You have to defend the people you already have. And along the way, you better go disrupt somebody else's business. Now this happens really whether you want it to or not. We've always known that in real estate, if you get in the business and you know a lot of people, well, you'll do business, won't you? We see it happen all the time. They just knew they're really sweet, and they just knew a lot of people. And it went and disrupted somebody else's business, didn't it? I mean, how many times have you had somebody and you thought they were your guys, and you drive by their house one day and somebody else's sign's in the yard? And it always seems to be somebody you've never heard of who just got in the business. They just disrupted you. So by the simple fact that more people get in the business, does that mean that there are more real estate sales? No. There's 1.5 million realtors now. There's still only going to be 5.9 million sales. We're just slicing this thing up more, right? So you have to protect home turf. When you do all 3 of these things, when your focus is to do these things regularly, you have a sustainable business model. And until you do that, your model's going to go like this, isn't it? It's like, I got a lot of money, I got no money. I got a lot of listings, I got no listings, right? Up and down and up and down and up and down. And that's because we don't do some pretty basic things in our lives. We don't run our lives, do we? It's almost like a realtor mantra. I want you to run your life. Life lived at its highest level is when you run the stinking thing. You ever been around somebody that really runs their life and watched them? Because they're out there. I've been very lucky. I've been able to hang out with some pretty cool cats, right? And my regional owner, a guy named Dennis Curtin, specifically, we were in Montana. I got to tell this story because it was a massive lesson for me. So I become regional director of the RE/MAX Mid-States Dixie region in 2008, I guess it was. I'd taken a real estate office, turned it around, much like what Carl has done, although not to the level Carl has done. And Dennis called and said, I'd like you to run the region. And I'm like, well, I'll come up and talk to you, but I'm probably going to say no. And so I did it, and ended up 3 bottles of wine and a nice dinner later. I was regional director. But I'm there about 6 months, and he calls me one day and he said, hey, why don't you and your wife and the girls come out to my house in Montana, and let's just hang out for a week. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That'd be a lot of fun. Let me talk to Kathy, get back with you. My next phone call was a guy named Jim Sutton, who was my cohort. He actually ran Dixie, I ran Mid-States. And he goes, hey, what's new? And I go, oh, not much. I said, I just got off the phone with Dennis. Totally innocent. And Dennis, invited me to come out to Montana, spend a week. And he's like, what? Dennis asked you to come to Montana? I'm like, yeah. I didn't think anything about it. He goes, I've been here 14 years. He's never asked me to come to Montana. And I was like, oh. So I don't call Dennis back, right? So then he calls me and he goes, hey, what'd you ever decide about Montana? And I said, well, Dennis, I said, here's the deal. I kind of mentioned this to Sutton, And, he was a little upset. And Dennis goes, oh. And then here's the great lesson. He goes, oh, okay, Wayne. You know what? Here's what I want to tell you. I will totally respect how you run your life. And he said, if you run your life by going around and asking other people if it's okay if you do things you want to do, I will totally respect that. I run my life the way I want to. I do the things I want to do when I want to do them. And I asked you to come to Montana because I wanted to hang out with you. So I want you to respect that as well. Now, are we done? And I'm like, oh, I got it, Dennis. I'm in for Montana, right? And so I go, and so I'm there with him for a week. And he frustrated the tar out of me because I would send him an email, and then he would not reply. And it was like a big deal to me, but apparently it wasn't a big deal to him, and da-da-da-da-da. And I watched him for a week. And I try to live by this axiom, right? He would get up every morning. I got it before he did. He would get up every morning, and he would open up his iPad, and he'd go through his emails. And then he would shut his iPad when he was done, and we would go about our morning. And he would never think again about what might or might not be on that iPad. He would come in again at lunch, and he would open it up again, and he would go through them, and he would shut it, and we would go do whatever we were going to do. He would do it again before dinner and again before he went to bed. And I watched this every day, and what was so cool, what is to this day so cool about Dennis, and Carl knows Dennis, he is where he is. He's not thinking about anything other than what he's doing in that moment because he's running his life. I want you guys to run your lives. I really do. Life lived at its highest level is where you're making the decisions for yourself. You're not reacting. Now that means you do have to upgrade your skill set, right? You have to learn how to be, I invented a word a few years ago, you have to learn how to be progressive, not progressive, but progressive. The combination of being very polite to people, but also being aggressive. What I have learned is, if you're polite, you can be pretty aggressive with people and say, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. Life's all about delivery, right? Okay. The importance of your differentiation at initial contact cannot be overstated. You got to knock my socks off the first time I meet you. And no matter what the lead source is, you've got to show value at initial contact. All right, so anytime you meet a buyer, anytime you meet anyone, here's my 4-step qualification process. It's really, really simple. 4 questions you need to work into the conversation with every human that you meet in your work life, right? First thing we got to determine is, do they have a desire to do a transaction? Because not everyone does. Think open houses as I go through this, right? Not everybody that comes to your open house really has a desire to buy a house. They were just like early to pick up their kid. They're always the ones that show up right before the end of the open house too, right? And then they want to talk, right? Do they have the ability? Now that simply means, are they paying cash or getting a loan, right? And do they have something that has to happen before they could make a purchase? Baggage is what I call it, right? So do they have the ability to do a transaction? Thirdly, would you like some help? And the question, honestly, is that simple. Would you like some help? Some people will say, no. Okay, have a nice day. And then if they would like some help, could I interview to be the person that helps you? Right? If you get 4 yeses, you got a lead. If you don't get 4 yeses, you just had a conversation with a human. Move on, right? But if you get 4 yeses, book an appointment for a buyer consultation or a listing presentation based on how the conversation went. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need questionnaires. How many of you have buyer questionnaires and listing questionnaires? Raise your hand. Everybody in this room needs to have these. So you can get them. All right, Carl's going to have them. He probably already has them. This is like the crib sheet notes, okay? So the key to being able to convert leads is internalized dialogue, okay? So that you don't have to worry about the next thing to say, or you're not afraid of saying the wrong thing or offending someone. It's so rote, it's so internalized in you. I changed my life calling expired listings. That was really how I did it at 27 years old. I learned the dialogue of an expired listing, and it became internalized. I would go into the office every morning, and I would start calling expireds, and I would say, hi, this is Fredrick with RE/MAX. I noticed your home showed up as expired this morning, and I was just wondering, are you going to be relisting with the same agent or possibly interviewing any new agents? There was only 6 possible answers to that question. I was ready for all 6 of them because it was so internalized, it was so rote. and it resonated with people. And this is why I know that for every person in this room, if you want to scale your business, you can, because I did. I just figured out how this worked, right? And then I took the action steps to make it work. It's all about internalized dialogue. These will help you with some internalized dialogue or just crib sheet questions, right? So that you don't have these long, awkward silences or, gosh, what do I ask next? Or I'm so afraid of saying the wrong thing, so I don't say anything, which is kind of the wrong thing, because my trusted advisor is not afraid to tell me what I need to do. Upgrade your past client systems. If you don't get anything else, get number 5. Upgrade your past client systems, please. 2 issues. Smaller databases, not bigger ones. And increasing the number of contacts and more vibrant engagement with a smaller group of people. That is the issue. Invoke Pareto's Law on your database and identify your 20%ers. Y'all know Pareto's Law. If you've ever heard me, I always talk about Pareto's Law, right? You know Pareto's Law? It's the 80-20 principle. It's a law. There are 80% people in your database and there are 20% people in your database. You can drive your business through the 20%ers. Every time a phone rings, you have to ask yourself, is this going to be an 80% person or a 20% person? If it's a 20% person, I want to get really close to them. If it's an 80% person, I want to politely get away from them as fast as I possibly can. As a guy named Jim Good taught me years ago, the goal of any contact, outgoing or incoming, is to identify a potential client. It is not to try to turn everybody into a client. It is to take them through a process. So invoke Pareto's Law. It's a law. You'll walk on 20% of the carpets in your house 80% of the time. You'll wear 20% of the clothes in your closet 80% of the time. You'll go to 20% of the restaurants in town. We went to Steakhouse 85 last night, like we always do. And you'll order from 20% of the menu 80% of the time because it's a law. Don't fight it. Not everybody is equal. Not everybody carries equal weight in your business every day. Not every lead is the same. Get close to the 20%ers. How many of you have the RE/MAX First app? If you're a RE/MAX agent, awesome. If you don't, y'all are missing it. This thing does effectively really predict who's making the moves that people make. I did the Coach's Corner for RE/MAX, so we did 6 cities. I did Denver, Vegas, Phoenix, Baltimore, Boston, Minneapolis. And out of those classes, actually they did one in Texas that I was not involved in. There's a lady that did $15 million in production this year off of the First app. And all she did was, she was a Buffini person, right, with the pop buys. And whatever the First app predicted, she would go pop by their house. She had top of mind awareness with the people. She did $15 million in production. They said she stood up and goes, 15 million because of this thing, right? So I would contend that if you're a RE/MAX agent, you should have the First app. It's going to cost you $500. Do it. Please, do it. I think you should subscribe to Keeping Current Matters. How many of you subscribe to Keeping Current Matters? Okay. Are you then turning around and sending that information out to your past clients? That's what I would suggest that you need to start doing. All those slides I showed you earlier, that's all from Keeping Current Matters. Okay, that's Steve Harney's information. I think it's the most vibrant real estate information there is right now. Okay. And the other thing, how many of you subscribe to Inman News? Yeah, not as many. It's good. I'm not a huge fan of Inman, but sometimes there's really good information in there. And what we have to start doing is we have to be providing information to our clients that they're not getting from the normal sources, right? We need to be the purveyor of information. That's how we're going to keep people close to us. That's that trusted advisor status I want you to go for. How many of you have a closed Facebook group for your past clients? One person? Look into doing that. I have a client in Cypress, Texas, Jennifer Dodds. She has a Facebook group called Jennifer's Raving Fans. And it's where she does promotions for her clients. She invites them to things. They post back in how wonderful she is, right? And she controls it. Some people are always in like B&I groups, those business networking groups. This is like a business networking group. You just control yourself, right? You've got to fortify your past client relationships. Because as I toured, with Coach's Corner, And I'll ask the same questions to you guys, okay? I'll just ask the same ones that I ask in 6 cities as I went across the country with RE/MAX. If I'm one of your past clients, how often do I hear from you and in what manner? And raise your hand if I hear from you more than 24 times a year. One person. Raise your hand if I hear from you more than 18 times a year. More than 12 times a year. More than 6 times a year. Some of you have not raised your hands yet, okay? Can we acknowledge real estate's a referral business? Agreed? 12 times a year won't keep your people, okay? It will not keep your people. You've got to get north of 24 times a year, right? Take your lesson from airlines, rental car companies, and hotels. Create a program that the more I use you, the better this is, and we can culminate it in a company party. I'm actually talking about this in an hour on my Wednesdays with Wayne thing, if anybody goes to that. That's what we're going to talk about. Number 6, embrace video. How many of you embrace video? You know that 90% of sellers surveyed said that their agent did a poor job with video of their home. 90% of the people said my agent did not do what they could have done with video. By the way, 90% of all homes videoed in the United States are over 4,000 square feet. So what it means is that if you have a big house, I'll spend the money to do video, but if it's another house, I don't want to spend that money, right? And that was it. And I'll tell you what, that was the thing I saw in this overheated market. We didn't have to do the marketing pieces that we used to have to do, right? And people pulled back and stopped doing them. That was a huge strategic mistake. Your marketing should be your marketing regardless of business. Number 7, create a conversion protocol. You have an initial conversation with someone. Then you turn around and you send them a video just fortifying that relationship. Or if it was on the phone, you say, hey, I wanted you to be able to put a name with a face. And then you turn around and you drop materials off at their house. Or better than that, take a lead from these guys and you FedEx something to their house that tells them about you. Maybe you even use the video cards, right? And it's like, oh, wait a minute, this realtor's different. Then you turn around and follow up and say, am I the kind of person you'd want to talk to? Then you acquire a client. Before you do anything, you have a consultation with them. And you get them to sign an agreement. And then you go to work for them. Now, we do this on the listing side pretty regularly. We don't do it with buyers. That's why buyers are defaulting to the internet, to the portals. Number 8, study. Become a student of the game. Spend a little bit of time every day studying, right? Either reading a biography, reading a book, studying your industry, reading Inman News, reading National Real Estate Post, something where you can have more information for me than the average agent does. Embrace what I call the power of 15. You can change your life 15 minutes a day. If you just spend 15 minutes a day doing any of the activities that you know would make your business better, your business will scale. In 15 minutes a day, you can write 10 thank you notes. You can write 10 I was thinking of you notes to your past clients. The trap is, oh no, like there's a guy, Sherm Shanklin, he was a ranch guy in Oklahoma, and basically a big piece of his business model is he wrote 5 personal notes a day to people that had land in Oklahoma, and he was a huge land guy, huge, like ridiculously big land guy in Oklahoma. And so I shared that idea with an office, and on their internal Facebook group, one of the agents said, well, I love that idea, but I'm going to change it. My goal was 25 notes a week. Sherm was 5 a day. I'm 25 a week. I immediately got in there and I'm like, that's the trap. Because if your goal is 25 a week, if you don't do any on Monday, it's no big deal, right? I'll just do 10 on Tuesday. Oh crap, then somebody calls and I got a listing appointment. Now I don't have time to write the 10 on Tuesday. That's okay, I'll do 15 on Wednesday, or I'll amortize it out over the last 3 days. Because we're realtors, we know amortization schedules. And then by the time, what happens, we get to Friday and then what do? We're like, oh crap, I didn't get any of my notes written today. But that's okay. I'll just do 50 next week, because my week looks pretty open. This is why we're not consistent. And consistency is the key. So every little component of your business, break it down to its smallest little pieces, and then invoke the rule of 2. Never let 2 days go by without you spending time in the power of 15. If you work out, you get this. My son, this is how I learned this. My son brought this up to me. He goes, you know, Dad, you're only 2 days away from never working out again. I'm like, you're right. He goes, well, because if you skip 2 days at the gym, before you know it, you skip 2 weeks. Then you skip 2 months, and then it's like 2 years. I'm like, oh man, there's more application here than just the gym, right? What are those little things you got to put in your business to stay on purpose? Number 9, develop great bedside manner. I watched this happen in the marketplace over the last few months. Explain the process to people early before the actual transaction, because this thing got so much steam, you didn't have the ability to explain why you were doing what you were doing in the heat of the moment, because we got to write this offer. And I had a very good friend that lost, he doesn't know it, he lost a huge client over this. Because he said, we've got to come in at more than what they're asking with an escalation clause. And they said, why do we have to do both? And he said, look, in this market right now, we got to do what we got to do. And they did it. And she happened to be a friend of my daughter's. And she said, and we will never use him again. And it wasn't that his messaging was off. It wasn't that his strategy was off. It was his delivery of the strategy. So strategy without proper delivery is pointless. Your delivery of anything in life is just as important as what you're delivering to me. Number 10, turn pro. Just turn pro, guys. Look at this. I got 4 minutes left. Where'd Carl go? He'd be so proud of me. Turn pro, right? And what do I mean by that? These people are true professionals, aren't they? So Steph Curry, the most prolific three-point shooter in the NBA, Michael Phelps, Serena Williams, Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs. What's the difference between those guys and you? Nothing. Not one stinking thing. The only thing they do that we don't, they practice more. So I would tell you that you have chosen real estate sales as your field to be elite. And that is no different than Michael Phelps in the Olympics. That is no different than Steph Curry in the NBA or Steve Jobs with Apple or anything else. This is your chosen field to be elite. And my mindset says, if you're not going to be elite, get out. Now, what does an elite athlete do? They practice. They practice a disproportionate amount of time for the amount of time they're actually on the playing field. And what do we do as realtors? We don't ever practice. By the way, practicing for a realtor, what's it called? It's called role playing. Oh, we don't like that. So we're role playing with real life humans in the field, and it's costing us money. Anybody know the name Jason Whittle? Obviously, you don't know lineman that played for the Giants. So Whittle was a lineman, and now he's a RE/MAX owner. And I was given this presentation. He played for the Giants for like 12 years. And I said, Jason, I said, as an NFL player, what was the relationship of practice time to minutes on the field, right? And he goes, I don't know. And he calculated it. It's 1,186 to 1. 1,186 minutes of film and weights and preseason training and all that to 1. He goes, the most frustrating thing about being a professional athlete was people would come up to you and go, you get paid millions of dollars, you're only on the field half the time. They had no idea what we went through. We need to do what the pro does, right? This is your chosen playing field to be elite. And it's no different rules than the professional athlete plays by. Great book called Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield, one of my favorite authors. He said the sure sign of the amateur is he has 1 million plans, and they all start tomorrow, right? So then let's go through what Pressfield says about people that are pros. Habits and qualities of the professional. Number 1, the professional shows up every day. Number 2, they stay on the job. Number 3, they're committed to the long haul or the long game. I would contend that that is making short-term business decisions in the context of your long-term business model. Some days it's going to be awesome, some days it's not, but you're going to keep plugging away because it's all part of my bigger picture. The professional is patient. The professional trusts their model. The professional actually has a model, right? I know that if I do these things and I go 15 minutes a day in these areas and I never skip 2 days, I know that over time this will build and I will get there. They act in the face of fear. By the way, here's what I've learned. We're pretty inconsistent as a group of people. This is an industry, we're pretty inconsistent. How many of you feel like you could do more if you were more consistent? Okay, the only reason you're not consistent is you're not confident. We will consistently do those activities we are confident in. Why are we not confident? We don't practice enough, right? So when you embrace practice and you get really good at something, all of a sudden it's like, I gotta go show this off. I'm really good. I lived this with expired listings. Professional accepts no excuses, ever. As one of my mentors told me one time, you can't get yourself in a situation you didn't try to get yourself in. So don't complain about being here. Now let's figure out how to get you out of it. No excuses. It's nobody's fault but yours, right? My kids would tell you, if you called any of my children right now, any of the three, what's your dad's favorite quote? The search for someone to blame is always successful. I drilled it into their heads from the time they were little kids. Number 8, the professional is always prepared, right? Never shooting from the hip, always prepared. Number 9, they master technique. They do not hesitate to ask for help. They do not take failure or success personally, right? I've seen so many realtors have taken success personally lately. I did this, I did that. No, you didn't. The market did it, right? The professional endures adversity. Because it's not, as my dad taught me, you got to be as good a loser as you are a winner, because not all this stuff's going to work. Right? My dad was he's an entrepreneur. He's like, you got to be as good a loser as you are as a winner, Wayne. It's not all going to work. You're going to make mistakes. Number 13, the professional reinvents themselves when they need to. 14, they're recognized by other professionals. They don't walk into the room and go, hey, here I am, I'm cool. The other people go, oh, there they are. They're cool, right? They don't feel the need to talk about themselves. They just do what they do because they're a pro. So my question to you is this. Are you ready to turn pro? Because the marketplace of the future will belong to those of you that are. Opportunity abounds. But it takes us really backing up, drawing the line in the sand and saying, I'm going to get really damn good at this. Because there's a lot of forces banking on the fact you're not going to. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.